Greetings, comrades. In the previous video, we spoke about the critical skills list as we continue to discuss ANC policy, policy migration policy document as adopted at its conference. We spoke about critical skills and said the ANC recommends that the ANC government and the branches of the ANC must defend the ANC critical skills list as adopted in February 2022. It also notes that beneficiaries of the 2014 critical skills list have been making lots of complaints, and it says the ANC must defend that critical skills list. Let's look into the other section in the document which we have. Remember, we sent that document to our various social media platforms, and if you do not have, please Google the document. There's a section which says immigration officers and the inspectorate. Under policy recommendation, we are not going to read or to look into the other policy recommendations that are made, but of interest is this one that I'm reading. Quote, the recent publication of the National Labour Migration Policy introducing quotas for employment of foreign nationals will go a long way in diffusing the violence between South African citizens and foreign nationals over employment, close quote. You will know that the Department of Labor and Employment did come up with this policy proposal where when you apply for a general working visa, you have to prove that there's no South African that can do the job that you are employed to do. So it means that before you apply for a visa itself, you need first to be cleared by the Department of Employment and Labor to say there's no South African that can do the job. You need to provide the proof of what is called advertisement in national newspapers, proof of interviews that indeed you were one of the people that were interviewed, and of all the people that were interviewed were the best candidate. This is what the policy proposal says. Then the last one on this one is the whole question of ANC branches taking a lead in identifying undocumented migrants. Let me read what the policy proposal says here. It says, I quote, a well-coordinated strategy of tracking down illegal foreigners must be developed, and it is the duty of every citizen to report unlawful activities, and the ANC branches must take the lead in this regard, close quote. We know, of course, as a fact, that migrants live within the communities in South Africa. You remember we've been in Diepsloot and the other communities. People live together, and we spoke about the renting out of backroom rooms to migrants in the main, where a South African, say in Diepsloot, will build about maybe 9 rooms, bedrooms. They rent migrants. And every month, this is a person who's on pension or unemployed who collects 9,000 rands a month, mainly from migrants who are renting the back rooms. And in our interaction with the communities is that the targeting of migrants affect their businesses, because if, like, we are moving to month end now, there are people that rent those backyard rooms, and they are now saying they must go, and the tenant is unable to collect a rent, which under these economic conditions, by the way, they use to support their families. They pay school fees, they pay their bills, buy food, and so forth. And also the issue of spaza shops, where people rent in townships a garage for people to run spaza shops and they collect a rent. We are not in any way suggesting that South Africans and the branches of the ANC should not identify people that are in the country undocumented as suggested by the ANC policy document. But in our view, we think the 2017 White Paper on International Migration is the best in terms of managing migration, because the reality of the matter is that migration is a global phenomenon. It is not only South Africa that is affected by migration. A number of developed economies are affected by migration, but this is what the ANC is proposing to do. Morning, Comrade Batsirai Maungauze. I hope I pronounced your surname correctly, as I'm still learning Shona language. I want when I go to Mrewa, I don't want anyone to interpret when I address a public meeting there. I want to speak in Shona with the elderly there. Then let's look into recommendations in respect to policy recommendation towards a single citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection. It says research conducted reveals that structures or officials established in terms of the Refugees Act do not appear in the international instruments relating to status of refugees. The document then goes on to analyze countries like Canada and others on how they handling the issue of refugees relating to migration. So please check into that. They also analyze United Kingdom and other countries. And then the policy recommendation from the ANC after doing this analysis of other countries on how, excuse me, on how they handle these issues. It says the ANC-led government must introduce new policy framework and legislative measures which include the establishment of structures such as in Canada. The decision-making powers will be quick and virtual hearing can be introduced at the ports of entry as in Netherlands. A consideration must be given to appoint either serving judges or retired judges or senior counsel as chairpersons of the appeal boards or board bodies. So that's the recommendation of the ANC policy policy on migration. Let's conclude here by speaking briefly about the establishment of immigration courts. So the proposal is that there should be immigration courts that are established to, it says, let me read, the ANC-led government must establish immigration courts. The current legislative arrangement is untenable and leads to long delays in finalizing immigration matters. So this is what the policy document is recommending. Please read the entire document, but we will then in the next video conclude the ANC policy document, specifically looking into the Zimbabwe exemption payments, because as we discussed, I think last year, we said the issues of migration were then moved to the Commission on Safety, Security and Safety, if I'm correct, if that's the correct name of the commission. It was removed from International Department Commission, which was International Relations Commission, which ordinarily would be dealing with these issues. So we then want to have an understanding on how the in summary, the conference of the ANC dealt with the question of the Zimbabwe exemption permits. We know that many people that follow this YouTube channel are interested in knowing whether there's going to be a change of heart in respect to the Zimbabwe exemption permits or not. So we'll discuss that in the next video. Comrade Beginkosinglov says, sorry to be off topic, comrade. The Minister of Security said the Department of Home Affairs will be guided by the United Nations in the immigration law overhaul. This is what we discussed, I think, in the first video when we're looking into refugees. Remember, we said when you are a refugee or you have a refugee status, and the situation in your country has improved and your life is no longer under threat, the ANC in this policy recommends that the Department of Home Affairs working together, or the ANC-led government working together with the United Nations for human rights. Is it, if let me double check, but you're working with the UN body that deals with the issues of migration or refugees, should assist, should repatriate people that need to go back. They said there must be introduce a new legislation to deal with those issues. They went on to analyze countries like Zimbabwe, countries like Namibia, countries like Botswana on how they've dealt with the issue of repatriation of refugees to their countries. So, as we said, that the if you have a refugee status, it does not mean that you are permanent in South Africa, Comrade Beginkosi Ndlovu. As I conclude, I remember, I think it was in 2017, I can't recall. I was at the SICP Congress. I think I was with the chairperson, the then chairperson of the portfolio committee. At that time, we were discussing the issue of government stopping the quota payments. And I was asking the comrades the rationale behind stopping the quota payments. And what the comrade was saying then is being fulfilled now. He had said to me, they are trying to make it difficult for migrants to get permanent residence, which will then lead to citizenship. Was making an example to say, if you came in as a teacher, you have been teaching, say, for 5 years in some school in Limpopo. In 5 years that you have been teaching, you should have impacted your skill to a South African who will then it takes over from you once your permit expires, and they will be expecting you to go back to your country of origin. And in terms of the proposals that we are seeing, this seems to be coming to pass as in terms of the proposals. But like I said, I've not, which is not really my expertise, I've not really looked into the Constitution of South Africa to say, is this policy a proposal by the ANC, these recommendations in the migration policy, do they violate the South African Constitution? We'll hear from the legal experts on that, but they will be introducing a number of legislation to to ensure that this is in line with the laws of South Africa. Please write your comments, ask questions in the comment section. If you are reading the document, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. We will conclude, as I'm saying, focusing on the ZEP holders in terms of what the ANC conference discussed. Otherwise, goodbye.